Hey, what's up, you guys? So today I want to do a product review for a plugin that I've been messing around with for the past couple weeks. And this is the Burnley 73. This is made from our friends over at Sonimus. So this is a 1073 emulation. I know that there's been quite a few out there, but I think that this one kind of really stands out. And Sonimus is known for making really, really high quality plugins that are at an amazing price. And this is no different. So from left to right, we're starting off at the little high pass filter knob right here, which is detented just like the real thing from off all the way to 300 hertz. We have a low shelf filter that goes from plus 16 to negative 16, and that starts at 35 hertz all the way to 220 hertz. We have a really, really nice mid bell curve that goes from 16 to negative 16, and that starts at 360 and goes all the way up to 7,200, if I remember correctly. We also have a fixed high shelf filter, which I find sounds really, really smooth and is really, really nice. And again, 16 to 16. We have a mic and line gain, which line level basically adds a little bit of a subtle harmonic coloration, while mic level adds a lot of volume and really drastic saturation, and the curve of the actual unit changes. You have the output knob, and you have a show label button, a phase inversion button, and the EQ in and out. Now, like I said earlier, with the gain knob, when you actually crank it up or down, you actually change the frequency response of the plugin. And that I actually found out by doing a little bit of research about this plugin. And I'll show you guys what I mean right now. So let me open up this little VST analyzer. So you'll see here the frequency response of the actual unit. And if you set it to off, you'll see it kind of changes. So as I slowly kind of change it to mic level, every so often its response actually changes. And the same, I'm sorry, this is line level. To the right is line level. And if you bump it up to the mic level to the left, you see you get a really huge change in the frequency response. And one reason why this is really interesting is because I've noticed some of the other emulations or the older emulations don't really do this. They just kind of add that saturation style of the mic or the line gain. And what this does is this actually changes the actual response of the unit, meaning that the curves now don't respond the way that they usually did. So like when you crank up the mic gain just a little bit to the left, you're changing the frequency response enough where you're actually, even if it's not doing any audible like distortion, now your EQ curves are actually going to give you a different result, which I find is really cool and really unique. So let's go straight into the plugin. This is a old session, and this is a cover of the Queens of the Stone Age song called "I Want to Make It With You." They were actually recorded pretty well, but there was like a lot of like little things that I wanted to change. I wanted to do a lot of tone shaping, a lot of like coloration and saturation. I didn't have a lot of plugins. Now I have a tons of plugins, but I still love these like analog emulation plugins for their like unique saturation and curves that they add to it. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bypass all the Burnley 73s, and we're gonna play the mix, and I'm gonna turn it back on so you can hear the difference. So here we go.
You wanna know if I know why I can't say that I do. Don't understand the evil eye or how one becomes two.
So now that we have a little bit of something to listen to, let's solo out the vocals, and I'll show you what I mean of how I've used this to kind of like do broadband tone shaping. So we have these vocals that were recorded. They actually sounded pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bypass just the EQ that I did to this. We're going to solo this up, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So here we go. This is the vocal before any processing was done to it at all.
You wanna know if I know why I can't say that I do.
So you'll notice that you get a lot of like wind noise and a lot of like low end. It's kind of muffly. And what I did here, if I go into the Burnley, is I actually cranked it all the way up, and then I cranked it about 7 dB with the high shelf, and I kind of cranked it a little bit at 110, and then I boosted a little bit at 700. Now, one thing is these curves, like the real 1073 EQs, is a little bit goes a long way. So it's very audible and very noticeable. And like I said, I wanted to do a lot of drastic changing. I also did a cut at 160. So with this bypassed, and I'll unbypass it, and you can see the huge difference that we get.
You wanna know if I know why I can't say that I do.
So you notice you get a really huge change in the audible sound in the spectrum. This is like normally when it's done with a normal digital EQ is you get a really, really harsh or really, really like ugly or nasty like artifacts and stuff like that. But not so in this case, which is actually very surprising to me. The next thing that I did is the pianos, they sounded actually pretty good. They were like really kind of like low end heavy. And they had like a really nice sound. But to be honest, I wanted for my own personal mix, I just wanted a really like honky, like saturated piano sound. So what I did is I actually sent both of these and I had the same EQ set up right here. And then I sent them into a bus and I did more saturation. I drove them into the mic level and I just basically boosted a lot of top end. So I'm going to bypass these on the piano and I'll show you guys what I mean. And one thing is, if you really listen to it, you'll hear that because I'm saturating it so much, it's doing this kind of like natural compression where it doesn't sound like I'm smashing it with a compressor, but it sounds like I'm like limiting it, but with like a soft clipper kind of thing. So you're still kind of keeping some of the punch and the intensity, but you're reducing the dynamic range, meaning that you actually gain headroom while also gaining volume. Next thing I did is I went on the bass, and this was more for color. I drove this again really hard. If you actually look at my settings, I basically did nothing but drive it hard, and I did the output match. So this is going to be without it and then with it. And all that really did is I added a little bit of growl, and that little bit of compression that I get from all that distortion kind of helped out with like keeping the bass like in the mix. After that, I went to the overheads, and again, I drove this hard. And in this case, I cut a little bit of low end at 50, and I boosted a little bit at 60, and then I cut around 360. So we're gonna play this without, and these are the overheads. As you can hear, what I'm doing is I'm kind of adding a little bit of that like boominess from the kick while getting rid of the like subby boominess. And at the same time, I'm getting rid of the boxiness and adding some snap. And that's actually what I want from that. I wanted the snare to kind of really stand out. The next big thing is I went to the snare and actually summed all the snares together. I did levels, and then I just went into a little bus and I just kind of messed with this. And again, I'm driving this hard. I really can't stress that I love the distortion that you get. I'm basically just like making this snappy, like really, really snappy. So let's play this without it, and then I'll play it with it. Again, I'm really going for this like really snappy sound. The next big thing that I did, which I loved, was the kick. I cut all the way at 80 hertz, and then I did a huge 16 dB boost at 60 with the shelf. And then I did a cut again at 360 and a big boost at the high shelf at 8.4. And then I used the line gain just to 20, and then I gain matched this. So check this out. This kick actually sounded way different. Right? So you get this like really like tubby bottom end heavy kick. That since it's getting a little bit of saturation, it's kind of compressing it, it's kind of keeping it snappy. But you're overall getting a huge change in the dynamics and the sound quality. On the background vocals, I'm doing a really, really subtle, just not really noticeable, just cut, I believe. I was just cutting a little bit at 50 and doing a little bit of a harmonic saturation. And that's actually super subtle. You're basically just kind of getting rid of some mud. But again, it's doing a lot. It's changing the way that I find that the mix kind of blended in. I got a lot of low end out of it, and I got a lot of nice body. So again, now let's do this again. And what we'll do is let's listen to stuff like the kick and the snares and like really listen to like the changes that you're getting. So we're gonna play this without it. And then what I really want you to do is I want you to listen to like the tubbiness of the kick, the like high end and the excitation of the vocal, the snappiness of the drums and stuff like that. So let's do this.
Don't understand the evil eye, or how one becomes two. I just can't recall what started it all, how to begin in the end. I ain't here
Honestly, I really love this thing. I think this sounds really cool, and it sounds like very musical and very smooth. And like I was saying, I'm loving the different distortions that you can get when you drive it hard. You get this really snappy, almost like you're soft clipping it, like you're just chopping off the ends without squishing it and mushing it like you do with a limiter. Overall, I think this is a fantastic EQ, and I would highly recommend uh, trying it or picking it up because it's super cheap. But that's it for today. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys want me to do any other product reviews. Lately, I've been asked to do some more longer, more in-depth reviews, so I'm gonna try to kind of keep that format up. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys like the format, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.